Hello, everybody. Hello, Miss Honoree. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Lucas?
I'm doing great. Super excited about today's topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're on the You Must Market Your Book run of topics, chapter 7. Today, tomorrow, and the future. I almost said forever. Sorry.
What voice is that? Is that
Um,
what? Who was the classics? The guy who would,
oh, yeah, I need like a jacket with like patches.
yeah, you need like a pipe and like, although I think that's not a pipe. What? I'm
I
not
think
sure.
you're right.
I'm
Tobacco pipe.
not sure how we hold that. Belay my last.
Belay my last.
I try to speak military to you so that you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
All right.
without it, I'm lost. So I appreciate
Okay.
that. It's like being I'm a stranger in a strange land without it.
That's all right. That's all right.
So one of the cool things about this uh, chapter is that you address the so we always hear about life, like the book's life cycle,
We do.
but you specifically talk about yeah, we do. I was at a
Okay.
panel last week about the same
Oh,
topic.
good. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Good.
And I love that you go over the three phases of a book's marketing life, not the book itself as a physical asset, but the marketing life cycle of the book.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. So you've identified three phases in the book.
Yeah, I think there are actually three, although I think a lot of people think that there is one phase, maybe two.
Mm.
I think they think that we have, I have a new book, that's phase one. And phase two is now I don't have a new book. So,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like I have a new book, I launched my book, and either it did something or most likely it didn't.
Mhm.
And they think, well, that was a nice book that I wrote that one time. And now I have boxes of it in my garage or a shelf of them on my credenza in my office or something like that. But they don't think about the opportunity that really lies within a book by thinking about it in terms of effective marketing phases. So
Mm.
when I was writing You Must Market Your Book, I really wanted people to stay connected to their book and to understand what's happening with their book and what's also happening internally with themselves as authors as their book ages.
Gotcha. That's incredible. I mean, that was a big, I don't want to say it was an eye opener, but it was nice to see as a recently published, I was like, my first book had come out right around the same time you were putting this book out. And I was like, okay, that makes me feel better because I was on the cusp of that first phase. And I was wondering when that was going to come down, right? Because you could see the sales numbers and all this stuff, all the nice little push. And then what happens when that happens? Like, man, do I only have this experience for so long, and do I have to change my marketing approach for each of the different phases that follow this? So yeah, I mean, of course, the answer is sometimes. But can you talk a little bit about what specifically those three phases are? Like, what are the three phases?
Sure. So I equated them to a love relationship.
Hmm.
So when you first have your book, when you first release your book, it's love at first sight. So when you're with someone and you're like, oh, it's new, it's fabulous, and you're super happy all the time and losing sleep and spending all your time together and you can't get enough and it's fabulous. And then at some point you're tired and hungry, right? And you move into um, phase two, which I call you're still the one. So you still love your book, but you have to go back to real life. You love your new person, but you have to go back to going to the office on a regular basis and behaving like a grown up. So your book takes a place in your life and your business, but it is not this new all-consuming object of your affection all the time. So it allows you to step into maintenance of marketing, right? So as opposed to being all the time every day you're posting and responding to reviews and giving it out to everyone. So when you get into phase two, you change up your marketing a little bit so it kind of settles down for this next period of time, which could be from about 3 to 6 months after the book is published until a year to 2 years into the book's life cycle, depending upon what else is going on in your life and your business. And then at some point, this is, like when you become an old married couple, right? When the honeymoon is over, you now know you're together until the end of time.
Mm.
So maybe not your spouse, but definitely your book.
Right. Yeah.
Depends on the spouse, right? You then know that we're in this relationship forever. And if you neglect the relationship, it will end. If you neglect your book's marketing, the sales will come to a natural end, or they will kind of peter on until they peter out. Or you can go into some long-term maintenance marketing, said a different way. You can figure out what are the things that actually move the needle with your book's marketing that are sustainable from a personality perspective, sustainable from a book's job perspective, and sustainable from your time and money availability. So when you are thinking about, well, is this something I can do forever? Can you go on date night once a week forever? Can you, take time every day to post about your book forever? Can you do a newsletter about it every quarter? Can you still speak at conferences about it? Can you still do podcast interviews about it? And then there's the unspoken, but still important next book that will breathe new life into your what would now be your new book that you're just super excited about, that you're marketing, eventually becomes your backlist, because then you have a new book and then you have a backlist. So those are the 3 phases in a nutshell. I'm happy to kind of dive into any one of them.
Well, yeah. And I mean, in the book, you use a couple of examples to help do that, right? You talk about Andy Storch,
Yeah.
and you said you talk about Beth, correct?
Yeah, Beth Ramos.
Okay.
So Beth was in the Love at First Sight, where she wrote, illustrated, and published her book. And it's really an exciting time. And it is a time to enjoy. And I don't want people to get too focused on phase 2 and phase 3 when they're in phase 1. You just enjoy the moment. You just live in the moment. You enjoy being a new author every time. The first time and every time you become a new author, you enjoy that new book smell, right? You enjoy the fact that people are going to be impressed that you became an author. They're going to want to talk to you about why you wrote the book. They're going to want to know who the book is for. They're going to want a signed copy. They're going to want you to autograph it or sign it or both. They're going to be really excited for you. You're going to feel super energized to check your book sales every 30 minutes or so, give or take. You're going to, I've heard, you're going to want to go on social media and see who responded to your post on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. You're going to want to just be checking in on it all the time. And there will come a time when you will be tired. You will go, I think I've talked about it enough. I think that I need just, if I hear one more sentence or word about this book, I'm a little over it. And I'm going to say the same thing to authors that my trainer says. And that is, when you are tired, you take a break, but you do not quit.
Right.
Your book is not an avocado. And that is for Beth, because I know she likes it when I say that. And that is a fitness reference where they want you to eat avocado because it's a good fat. But avocados are tricky little beasts in that they're only ready to eat for in a small window. So there's the too raw to eat. They're not quite ripe enough to eat. And then there's the, oh no, it's past its prime. You have to throw it away. And there's this little window in the middle where you have to capitalize on it. And I think authors have been trained, or there has been an expectation set that when you publish your book, you've got about 12 weeks. And in traditional publishing, that's really true. You release your book and it's got about 12 weeks to really prove itself. And if it's not really selling like hotcakes, the publisher shifts its focus, except in this instance, whether you're the publisher and the author, or only the author, I don't want to say just the author, because there's no such thing as just an author. But if your role is author and publisher or author, your book doesn't go bad. Unless it is the 2020 guide to managing the pandemic, it's not a book that people go, oh, you must market your book. Well, people don't write books anymore, so no need for this book. There will be a need for me to talk about this book for a very long time.
Right.
just as you must write your book and write your first nonfiction book and the best-selling book formula, all of those are by design evergreen content, and I will want to talk about them forever and should talk about them and will talk about them in ways that are sustainable for me.
Right.
So you don't have just 12 weeks. As a matter of fact, after 12 weeks, you may need that break, but gosh, don't you quit, because that's when you're just going to start getting into the momentum phase, and you're going to start to get into, let's call it book outer space, right? When you shoot a rocket through the Earth's atmosphere into outer space, it's like when it gets out there is when it starts to find eyes and readers that you would not have connected with otherwise. And so you really want to just settle into marketing maintenance mode. You really want to just stay in the process and keep marketing the book indefinitely. Your grandkids will be glad you did if you do it right.
Yeah, that is the goal.
Yeah.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Also, not to have grandchildren too soon, but
Yeah.
for the record.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait a little bit to find out about the whole grandkid thing. um,
Yes.
so so fascinating point about, like, once your book is out there and it's able to reach people that you may not have reached with your warm market or your hot market or your close
Yeah.
proximity sales window or whatever people want to call it. Um, what does that look like though when you have so many great books out there, right? Because you're a prolific writer. You've written several really strong books, one uh, you know, preceding several others that are all within the related genre, all very relevant to the same reader, all very strong on their own. Um, do you how do you manage that expectation for the long-term marketing when you have so many great titles out there? Like, is there a certain point where you have to like remind yourself, you're like, oh man, I got to really go back and talk about publishing PhD, or not publish PhD, but you must write a book?
Well, that's funny that you should ask, because I very much love the conquest of writing a new book, the creativity of writing a new book and letting the words flow. And I have learned to love every aspect. So I love this. I love conversations about books, what's in a book, what's the content that I wrote about, reminding myself what I wrote about, where was my brain at the time, what was I thinking about, how is this applicable to the person who will be watching it. But I also get bored of, like, can we talk about book marketing like one more time? Sure, that sounds like a great idea, right? So I have other books that I can go and talk about. So when I get a little bored with one topic, I'm either working on a new book, I have a new book that's just come out, or I have an older book that I really like. I have a couple of books that I've written that I am extra fond of, and they have a special place in my heart. And so I can go back and resurrect those marketing images, some of those interviews, and I can post about it and see a spike in book sales and rejuvenate that. Or someone will reach out to me and they'll say, if I could read one book of yours, what would the book be? And with a couple of questions, I can give them a recommendation, and I go, oh yeah, I should check in on that kid and see how they're doing. Right? How many sales have I had? Where are my sales trending? Do I need to do an ad for it? Should I post it on Instagram? Should I do a story? Should I do a post about it? I have book birthdays, and that's one of the ways I manage book expectations for myself, is to have all of the dates of my book releases in my calendar. And so every year, so when I release a new book, I put it in my calendar with the year in parentheses, and then I call it the birthday. So every year I'll get a reminder, oh, this is the birthday of this book. And then, of course, I've posted about it on social media. So I can say, I can't believe this was 6 years ago. I can't believe this was 18 years ago or 19 years ago that this book came out. And every year on my author anniversary, which is either January 2nd or 3rd, I should know that, I post about being an author and how many books I've published and how many books I've sold, and what that looks like, and how it did not happen overnight, but it has happened over every night, and things like so. So there are little tricks, ways to keep it interesting, keep it fun, keep it fresh, keep it so that hopefully I don't lose my passion. But I'm 19 years in,
Right.
almost 19 years in. I have two different author dates too. One is the date 19 years ago when I published my first book, the title of which I will never speak of, and no one will ever see a copy of the book, because several months later, I redid the book, new title, new manuscript. And so that's what I consider my actual birthday. But my first book was actually released in 04, but I count early January of 05 as my actual date.
Okay.
So when I say 18 or 19 years, it's like, well, which is it? You know, like January is only once a month, right? Once a year, like figure it out.
Yeah. I'm smiling to myself because I can just imagine, like, because you didn't, at that point in your career as a writer, you didn't have the guidance that you're able to offer so many people now. So part of me is
No,
like my heart's breaking a little bit for young Honoree putting that first book out
bless her
there.
heart. Bless her heart.
Bless her
She just
heart.
did not know. She just did not know. And I did not know. I had no inkling and no guidance. And I was doing what I see a lot of people do, which is why I am very passionate about helping people to write their first book like they would write their 50th or 60th or
Mm,
100th book. Because once you know better, you do better. But if you don't know any better, you just think, well, what could go wrong?
right.
How bad can it be? Oh,
Yeah.
it can be bad.
It can get bad. We
It
don't
can be
want
bad. And it is bad, even with all of the resources. And certainly there was no dawn of self-publishing back in 2004 and 2005. As a matter of fact, there are still a lot of people that go, oh, are you self-published? Bless your heart. And I think, yeah, bless my heart all the way to the bank. I'm doing all right. Right.
Yeah.
But I also have the confidence that, and also the internal belief, and I understand it from a different perspective. I don't feel like I need that external validation. I don't feel
Right.
like I need traditional publishing. I'm not opposed should the right situation come along, but
Sure.
I now have the 360 view of the situation. And that certainly was not possible back when I was first publishing. There were not, to my knowledge, a lot of professional self-publishers, and there were not, to my knowledge, hybrid publishers, at least that I knew to look for. So
Right.
now there are lots of options for everyone, and everyone should, definitely do their due diligence and their research and figure out what would work best for them. But bless my heart, I did not have a mentor. I did not have someone who was writing books saying, here are the things to avoid and here are the things you want to make sure you do.
Right. So, I mean, after all these years of having successfully published so many great books, I mean, because for those that aren't familiar, you're over 50. You've by book count, people, it's over 50 books. I wasn't talking about years. You're only 32. So, if you've published over 50 books, you've kind of had a little bit of experience with the whole marketing lifestyle of books. And I think it's so good for me to hear as a fairly young author to hear about how the same things I experienced with my first book are the same things everyone experiences on book whatever, right? Book 50. That,
Yes.
to your point about like the fact that you still have to do the same work for book number 29 that you have to do for book number 1
Oh, yes.
to
Yes.
get.
And at some point, monetize your book with a course is your first book, right? It's the book that turned you into an author. It was your first experience. It's a fantastic book. You did a great job publishing it. That is a professionally published book. You can take a bow, do a hair flip, all of the things, right? Have a cocktail, every piece of celebration. It's always going to be there to serve you. And at some point, you're going to go, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And the more you do, the more you want to do. It's the fever. You get the author sickness, you get the fever.
Oh yeah.
Just writing and publishing books, and it's really fun. It's really fun to have those conversations. I was giving out a book last night. I gave out a book last night to someone, and they came up to me an hour later at the end of the meeting that they were supposed to be paying attention to, but I think they were reading my book. So I don't know who gets in trouble, me or them, but he was like, I feel like I can do this now. I've got a roadmap. I've got a process. I'm so excited. And like, that doesn't get old. Having someone say, I'd love the copy of your book. Is this for, can I have this? Can I pay you for this? What are we doing? And then, would you mind signing it? Is that okay? Can I ask that? I'm like, you don't know. Like, you don't know how cool of a thing that is. It's my favorite, right? Hand it over.
Yeah, that makes you feel good.
It does. It
Um,
does.
and yeah, as you were recalling that story, you're the kind of person that this just kind of hit my brain because I was in the opposite shoes this last week where I was at a conference where I was getting to meet some authors I've never been able to meet that I'm really big fans of. And the magic on both sides just never goes away. And
It does
I think a
not.
really good writer doesn't forget what it feels like to be a really good reader and to have that experience with you. By the way, thank you for the advice about so Honoree is really good about the whole in-person networking and connecting. And I was really active in that in my business before I joined EBM. So that was music to my ears because I'm like, great, this falls right into my existing pattern for business development. And it's been great to have the book as a piece of that because prior to being published, I didn't have the book on a table to have that kind of
That's fun, right?
conversation starter, right? In networking, people come up just to look at the book. Tell me about your book. It's like a total conversation starter.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to be like, so looking at your tag, Lucas, what do you do for a living? It wasn't none of that. It was just like, hey,
Oh,
great presentation. I want to see this book. Um, and I
yeah.
thought that was really cool. But those are things that, like, when I published Monetize Your Book of the Course in January, I wasn't thinking about being at a professional conference in June and having the book as a conversation starter, which was never mentioned in my presentation, wasn't part of my bio. It just happened to be me with my books in the lobby with a table, and people actually were seeing the book and coming to the book and then talking to me. And I thought that was really cool. It was like a great way to have a
It needs to
natural
be in your
progression.
bio.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's in my professional bio, but it wasn't in the one that was read at the conference because it was on a
It's
different
not that
topic.
type of conference.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Um, but
It doesn't
after,
matter. It doesn't matter what title of your book is. Even
yep,
if you were speaking on like knitting,
yeah,
knitting and quilting, you published a book and that becomes the thing people want to ask you about.
right. Well, it's funny
Yeah.
because I do this presentation on one topic and then I'm in the lobby selling my book and it's about something totally different.
Mhm.
And I sold multiple books. So could you imagine if I'd have been like, well, I'm not going to bring my books and I'm not going to ask
No,
for an author's table because this doesn't have to do with that.
you would be in trouble.
I
You'd
would
be
have
grounded.
missed out on the opportunity to get books in people's hands. And yeah, and then Honoree would have yelled at me.
I would have, no, there would be no yelling. I would just ground you. You're grounded. You're grounded and go to your room until you learn your lesson.
That's right.
The fun thing that will happen too when you are an author is, and this is from another story last night. So I am co-chairing something. It doesn't matter. And I was at a meeting and I was with my co-chair and she's a realtor. So I have two books that I have written for realtors, real estate agents. And one of them is 15 Secrets Highly Successful Real Estate Agents Know About Time Management with Kevin Cruz, who wrote 15 Secrets Highly Successful People Know About Time Management. So I have some of those copies. And on my way out the door, I grabbed a copy of that book to give to her. And so we're meeting and I said, oh, I brought you a present. And I pull it out and I put it on the table and she's reading down the book and my name's on the bottom. So she's reading and down. She's like, Honoree. And then she says, I knew you were a writer. That's the funny thing is wherever I go, I'm not Honoree Corder author. I'm just Honoree Corder, right? I'm just a person. Especially when I'm doing community service.
Right.
I'm not talking about what I do for money. I'm talking about what I can do from a place of service. And so then she puts will you sign the book? And of course we have that conversation and this is so cool. And I had no idea. And so we have a little conversation about it. And then other people start to show up. And so the woman sitting next to her looks at the book and so reads down and Honoree Corder and like starts all over again. And it was just really funny. And then the guest, so not my co-chair, and not this woman, but the guest of her. So this woman is a realtor and she has on her name tag. And so she shows the woman and she was like, look at this. And this is her. Like they were having a moment of like, and I take it for granted. I actually don't think it's that big of a deal anymore, as you know, right? After a while, you're kind of like, yeah, it's my job.
Right.
It's what I do. And I said, well, I think I have another copy in my car. Would you like a copy? And they're like, yeah, can we go get it right now? So we go out to my car. And then of course they're like, would you mind signing? And it's very cute and it's a very wonderful moment. But that's what happens when people see that. And it's impossible to tell someone when I say you must write a book because you will boost your brand, get more business, and become the go-to expert. All of that is a very foreign concept. Like your kids are not your animals are not your children, or you don't know how it feels to be a parent until you are one, or you don't understand how it feels to go through something until you've actually gone through it. And people go, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so until you actually held that book in your hands for the first time, you didn't know what it was like to be an author. And until you have someone's face literally light up like a Christmas tree when they see your name on the cover of your book, you don't know what that's like, but it is 100% worth it. Mm. And we're way off the marketing conversation, but we're kind of not, because that's how people start to talk about you is they go, oh, they don't say you're a writer anymore. They go, you're an author, which is a totally different, same thing, but not right. Not all writers are authors. All authors are writers. So it's kind of a cool thing to look forward to. And because it never gets old, then you can just keep marketing your book, because you don't ever want to give that up. It's kind of a hit of dopamine too.
Well, that's what I was just getting ready to say was, your recollection of that experience just reinforces the fact that, I mean, I've met some authors lately that they're not excited about the marketing part, right? They are like, I just want to write. I don't want to market. And I just kind of smile at them and think, well, you don't really want to, what you're telling me is you don't want to serve your book once it's published. Because that book deserves to be marketed, but you're also robbing yourself of this amazing opportunity to meet great people, have that great exchange with people. Me and two other authors sitting next to each other that have known each other for years. Each of us has a table. Each of us has our books on them. We're joking to people at each other's tables, like, hey, make sure you go over there. That guy's books, it's okay. We're like messing with each other. And then we're buying each other's books and we're having like, it's like a really like nice way to kind of like bond and then talk about each other. And so it's like, it's not just like me to an unknown reader. It's also a way for me to experience like a connection with my peers. It was a way to get to know other people in a unique way, because I mean, writing's a pretty intimate thing in my opinion. Yep. No matter what the topic is, you get to really know that writer through their writing. So all of those things happen through the marketing of the book. Like that's how you get it in people's hands. That's how you have those experiences. So to your point, I think you can't have the full experience and joy as a writer without the experience of marketing the book and having those conversations around the book and with other people, new people, people you've known forever, whatever.
Right. I think a re-examination of what marketing actually means would be helpful.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's not something I have to do. It's something I get to do. I get to serve my book. I get to serve my readers. I get to find new readers. I either get to entertain new readers or I get to inspire and transform new readers, or both.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm constantly, my friends that write books, I have one book that I'm writing right now and I know the author. And I was like, she had said, this is an interesting book because I'm doing something and which leads to something else in the book. And I texted her and I was like, oh my God, page 108, if this is what I think it is. And she said, I had to give away my last book. What's on page 108? And I just said, a conversation with this guy. And she goes, oh yeah, keep reading. And so it's so fun to connect with authors, because then you can message them about their book, which is, it's fun as the author to receive that. But I also do it when I'm reading an author because I know that they appreciate that.
Wow. Yeah. And all that's happening during that second and third phase of the life cycle of the book, mostly. Yeah. Amazing. I love that. And I hope that if you guys don't have You Must Market Your Book, you must market your book, that you go pick it up. That's what I'm trying to say.
I thought you were going to say you must buy, you must market your book.
Yeah, you must buy, you must market your book. If you don't have it, go check it out. This is literally all, like, there's so much more information in chapter 7 than what we discussed. We had a very high level conversation about those 3 phases, but in the book, Honoree unpacks them a bit. She gives some perspective on how to leverage each of those phases individually. And she gives some great examples of this stuff in action and how the lights come on, and it's great. I love it. Where can they find it? Where can they get you?
Anywhere books are sold, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Even through Overdrive, and I'm trying to think of the library. So if you have a library card, it's available on audio and also ebook through your library system. So it's everywhere books are sold, and also in your library system in audio and ebook.
That's right. So if you go to Books A Million or Barnes and Noble and it's not on the shelf, you can ask for it and they can access it and provide it to you.
Yep. And paperback and hardcover, paperback, hardcover, ebook, and audio.
Love it. I love it. I don't have the audio version. I've got to get that.
I mean, what's happening right now? I don't understand. What did you just say?
Well, you're not reading it to me, so like if it was Honoree, which
well,
you know,
you know what? I'm not a professional narrator, and I'm okay with that. Yes, I'm happy to keep other people employed as well.
Yes, I was just telling someone the other day that they said, "Would you think about narrating your own audiobook?" I said, nonfiction, I would definitely consider it. Not saying I would, but I'd consider it. Fiction, absolutely not. It's like I was listening to a fiction book on my way back from the conference this week, and there were like 18 unique characters in that book, and that narrator had to have a unique voice for each character. And I said, I will never be that good at narrating.
Well, it's a production, it's a performance, and it requires a level of skill and energy. And I say, let the professionals be professional.
That's right.
Yes.
That is right. Okay. Well, Honoree, do you have anything else you want to put on top of this thing before we shut her down?
No, I hope we just encourage people to continue marketing their book through all 3 stages.
That's right. And they never end. It's an endless last phase. I love it.
Yes. Endless pile of joy.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you in the next video where we talk about chapter 8 of the book. And we encourage you to go back and look at the preceding videos on the You Must Market Your Book series. Honoree, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys in the next video.